Hi, I'm Tom, and welcome to the Red Barn. Well, as promised, I'm bringing you the review of the Grizzly G0771 Hybrid Table Saw. I want to give you my impressions after working with this particular table saw for 6 months, as well as I'll bring you in close for some measurements, and we'll try to see exactly how well this saw is set up. We'll look at some run out of the blade, we'll look at how parallel the miter slots are to the blade, and we'll also take a look at the fence. So stick with me and we'll jump right in. So for those of you that aren't aware, this saw is considered a hybrid table saw, even though it does stand on its own pedestal and the trunnions are mounted to the cabinet and they're not mounted to the top. Somewhere in between a contractor saw and a professional cabinet saw. The rip capacity on this particular table is 30 inches. The blade extends up to, I'd say, 3 1/4 inches. It goes from 0 to 45 degrees. It's got a riving knife. It comes with, all the other safety gear that I generally don't use. I connected mine to dust collection, and as far as performance goes, I have probably passed thousands of board feet through this already. Generally, I usually cut yellow pine, so it's denser than the fir that you would get from 2x4s, but it's obviously not as dense as oak or any of the other hardwoods. It has performed very well. One of the first things I did was I changed out the blade, and I've got a nice fine finish Freud blade in here now. The flatness of the table, when I set it up, I was a little concerned about it, but it hasn't really been an issue at all. The table top is very smooth, very easy to work on. I have kind of an issue with the insert is a little warped, and so it's bouncy at times. Not that big of a deal. I plan on making my own zero clearance inserts anyway. My main beef with this saw is the fence. The fence is not that great. The face of the fence, it sits like this on the table, is not square to the table, and there's nothing you can do to fix that. There are some adjustment screws in the front. You can turn those down, but it only adjusts the squareness of the front of the fence, and the back is still twisted. So for that reason, I've gone ahead and ordered a Biesemeyer fence, and I will be installing it later on, and I'll probably make a video about that. Power-wise, it cuts through the wood just fine. If there's some squeezing on the blade, it slows the blade down and can sometimes lock it up. But as far as pushing through 2-inch, 3-inch material, I've done it with some walnut. I've done it with very long boards, 1.5-inch boards. No problem, it doesn't bog down. I've been very satisfied with the power. Okay, hand wheels, they operate very smoothly, and they lock with the center knob here, which is great. Same thing goes for the angle adjustment. The power switch is very easy to operate, very easy to turn off. I like it a lot. I have attached dust collection to my saw, and the dust collection does a pretty decent job. I think it could be better. One of the main reasons I think I don't get very good suction out of the top is because there's this giant hole here, and I know other saws have it, so I don't know. I mean, maybe my dust collection is undersized. It uses 4-inch port, and nothing special. It's just a Harbor Freight job, and I've kind of reconfigured it. I'll have a video on that later on as well. I've reconfigured my Harbor Freight to do more of a a cyclonic type collection as opposed to the way it was designed to run. But I still have to put a filter box on the discharge too. As you can see, I'm getting a buildup of fine dust there. But anyway, I still, when I put my hand over the opening, I can still feel a slight suction there. But you have to keep in mind that over above the motor here, there's ventilation slots as well, and so there's a lot of surface area, open surface area to the outside, and so you don't get a lot of dust collection through the top. I'm thinking about maybe installing brushes in this slot here, and maybe even over the ventilation slots to try to help more air come across this portion of the saw, but I have to do some more research on that. Alright, we're going to do a quick blade runout test, or I guess you'd call it an Arbor runout on a 10-inch blade. I'm just setting my dial indicator here close to 0, and I'm going to rotate the blade and we'll see how much runout there is. Alright, so we're looking at, here, let me readjust my handy little job here. Try to get it to stop vibrating when I rub it across the blade. Alright, let's try that. Alright, we're looking at 4 thousandths. It's not terrible. To be honest with you, this is my first big boy saw, I guess you could say. I don't know what would be considered good except for, 0, but I'm not sure you can even get that in a professional saw. It does really well for me. I can see just the tiniest, faintest lines in the cut when I cut, thick pieces of wood. Alright, this is my crude setup for checking the slot parallel to the blade. Just FYI, this setup that I'm using with my dial indicator is pretty simple. It's kind of a rip-off of a Noga style articulating arm, and if you don't know what Noga is, I'll leave a link in the description, and I'll also leave a link in the description for this articulating arm. And after I do this test, we can take a little bit closer look at the arm. I love them. I wish I could afford the Noga version. I can't yet, so this will have to do. Alright, so just watch, we'll watch the needle as I slide it. Right now the tip is right on the front edge of the blade. I'm going to run it to the back. So we're looking at 10 thousandths. I guess it's 10 thousandths tilted. What? Yeah, so it's tilted this way. Okay. That's obviously not the best. I'm going to switch it over to the other side, and we'll check the other side just to make sure that the error is equal, and then if that's the case, it's something I can fix with adjusting the tabletop. Alright, I'm using the right miter slot now and checking the runout, or the parallel. Whoops. Hopefully you can see that. Now that's interesting. The right slot is only about 3 thousandths out of parallel. Okay, well that's what I'm seeing on the other side. I had to put the tip of the dial indicator closer to the the slot opening like I was doing on this side, and I'm getting about 10 thousandths again. So that means that if the blade is off like this, that means I have to rotate the table, loosen the bolts, and rotate it counterclockwise, like that, to get it spot on. I'm not sure if 10 thousandths is enough of a concern to warrant that change. I'm sure you could drive yourself crazy trying to get perfect zero on your parallel. Yeah, just give you a quick demonstration of this articulating arm. It has a magnetic base, so, and you can turn it on. It's switchable, so nothing, and then you turn it on and it's solid as a rock. A single knob that controls all of the articulations. So when the knob is undone, you can move this wherever you need it to go, and then all you gotta do is crank it down and it stays where you want it to go, or where you want it to be. I learned about this from Tom Lipton on the Ox Tools channel. I'll leave a link down in the description. He is a wise man, and I've learned something new from him every video I watch. He's a big fan of a brand called Noga, and Noga makes these arms which are very high precision, very well made. They cost a lot of money. I found this particular arm on Amazon for probably 12 or 15 bucks. It's not a Noga, but it's a pretty good copy, or knockoff, or whatever you want to call it. It serves my purposes. I'm not a machinist, I'm a woodworker. I don't need that machinist precision that as bad as somebody like Tom Lipton would. Okay, so that brings us to the Achilles heel of this unit, and that is the aluminum rip fence. I swear I hate this thing. As far as repeatability, it really works well. I've got the tape measure dialed in to the window on the T-square, and that all works well. It slides, reasonably well along the table. The biggest gripe I have is this. Can't get it on right now. Alright. The biggest gripe I have is the fact that I can't get this square to this. And I don't necessarily want to try to put some type of an auxiliary fence on here that I have to shim and get it square just so this is functional. And having your rip fence be square this way from the table to the face of the fence is just as important as having it square from the front of the table to the fence itself. Now it stays square very well in this direction, and the only time it gets out of square is if I have a lot of sawdust built up on the table. It'll actually get underneath the runners on the T-square part, and it'll throw it off, because see, there's a lot of play right there. And there's no guarantee that anything that I replace this with will perform better that way. But the lack of adjustability to get this into square from this face to the table, in my opinion, is a deal breaker. And so the only solution I've come up with is this. So I bought a Biesemeyer fence. I'm going to replace this fence and rails with the Biesemeyer, and hopefully, I'm pretty confident that it'll solve the majority of the issues that I'm coming across with this particular fence. Now, should I expect something better out of a $675 table saw? Probably not. As far as that's concerned, this is a perfectly decent rip fence for an entry-level table saw. My gripe is just the fact that you can't adjust it in a plane that it comes out of the box out of alignment. So this one's going away. This one's going in its place. I should see a pretty big improvement. I almost forgot this test. This is an interesting one, and I noticed this when I first set up the saw. I was hoping maybe somebody out there could give me an idea of what I'm looking at here. There appears to be some looseness in the trunnions, and that's the only way I can explain it, and you'll see what I mean. The blade will drift one direction or another depending on whether I go up or down. So right now I've got my dial indicator at 0. Now I'm going to raise the blade and watch what happens. Alright, I'm reaching the end. This is the end of the travel, okay? And that's locked out. So on the way up, it goes out 0.003, but then when I get to the end of the travel, the vertical travel, it moves out a whole 0.20 away. Now on the way down, it goes the opposite direction, so now it's getting closer to the dial. I'm sorry, farther away. I don't know what I'm talking about. So that's 0.005 away from the original position. Alright, and I can't show you when you lock it down at the bottom. But then I change direction again. There it goes, 0.003 on the other side of 0 again. Go down, 0.005. So maybe there's a travel of maybe 0.008 just in between going up and down. Like I said, for most woodworking applications, probably not that big of a deal. But if you're looking for, precision, now I'm no Matthias Wandel, but it just seemed odd that, there's so much side-to-side travel when I'm going up and down. So the question I pose to my viewers is that normal? Can that be expected? Or is that a sign of poor quality? I really don't know. So maybe I'll get an answer. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe you guys can try this little test with your own saws and let me know how those results came out. Thank you. One thing I forgot to mention is that I did get a recall notice for this saw. It sounds like the bearings, well, as far as I understand it, the bearings for the Arbor were a little oversized, and so there's a danger of the Arbor slipping out of its bearings, and the warning tells you discontinue use, and we'll send you a solution to the problem someday. And so, that's not a good enough solution for me. I've been using this saw ever since the recall notification came out. They did send the bearings. They're over here somewhere. To be honest with you, I couldn't tell you where they are right now. I just haven't had the time to tear down this saw to replace the Arbor bearings. I mean, that's a pretty huge undertaking, and I've got work to do with this saw. Maybe changing out the bearings will help with that run out that I was getting on the Arbor. The run out's kind of small. I don't think it's that big of a deal. But it'll also, when I do change out those bearings, it'll give me an opportunity to get this table a little bit more parallel with the blade. Okay, so in summary, I want to give you some pros and cons. Pros: $675 for this saw. That's not much more than most contractor saws go for, and it's less than a lot of contractor saws go for. Okay, if you're looking at DeWalt and Bosch, you can look at spending at least that much for a little portable job site table saw. With that $675 payment, you get a cast iron tabletop. You get your riving knife. I'm sure all new saws come with that. You have a cabinet that collects the dust. You have cabinet mounted trunnions that are more adjustable, in my opinion, and they're less susceptible for falling out of adjustment. They are cast iron trunnions, which is important, and you have the option of going between 220 and 110 to suit your electrical needs. You get about 3 1/4 inches of vertical cut. You go from 0 to 45 degrees, that's normal. You get a very high quality finish on the tabletop. Now, the cons. There are a lot, but keep in mind the price of this saw. Okay, my biggest gripe, of course, is this fence, and the lack of adjustability for it, or the fact that it just is not tuned properly out of the box and you can't fix it. Keep in mind all of the run-out issues. I really don't count the blade parallel as an issue. I mean, that's a setup issue, maybe a quality control issue, but that's fixable. I don't care about that as much as the blade run-out, you know, or the Arbor run-out, I guess you would call it, and the looseness of the trunnions. I mean, that's a pretty big issue for me. So, would I recommend this saw? Well, it depends. If you're a professional woodworker and you're going to be using it every day, no, I wouldn't recommend it. I would suggest you invest in something a lot higher quality, you know, a little bit more precise. This is my entry-level saw, I guess you could call it. I have a small woodworking shop that I work in. It's not my day job. This saw was the purchase that I made to step up from the contractor style saws. For that type of person, for the hobbyist, for the weekend warrior, I would say definitely buy this. You may need to make some adjustments out of the box, but it's good. It can be a good thing, just so you get to know your saw better. And most people can probably live with the fence being out of square, but you know, I plan on doing a lot of resawing on this table saw, and so I need a dead square fence. That's why I'm going to put the other fence on it. But remember, $675 for a cast iron top table saw. You know, that's a really good deal in my book. What did I miss? Let me know. If you have any particular questions, just leave them in the comments below. I will answer those comments in the comments section, and if there's enough questions, I'll make a follow-up video and answer those questions. I hope you liked this video. I hope it gave you good information. If this is your first cabinet-style table saw, if you're just getting into woodworking, buy it. It's a great saw. It's got plenty of power for what most hobbyists and most you know, weekend warriors would need. And I'm glad Grizzly came out with this saw at this price point to help me understand what features that I want in a future saw that I buy, and it's helped me get over some of the you know, the issues that I've had with contractor style saws in the past. So thanks for watching the video. Hit that like button if you liked it, share this video with your friends, and I'll see you next time.